Anxiety is mounting for thousands of WestJet passengers as the threat of a flight attendant strike inches closer to reality. The airline has already begun proactively grounding aircraft, warning that reducing operations now could prevent greater disruptions if workers do indeed walk off the job. Joining us now is former Air Canada executive and current faculty lecturer at McGill with more on the negotiations and what's at stake here for travelers. So John, bring us up to speed here. The two sides still appear to be far apart at the bargaining table. So with that strike deadline looming, is there even enough time to reach a deal here?
Yeah, I think there is. I think we're talking about a situation where we've gone through this before. They went through this with their mechanics about a year and a half ago in negotiations. I think they had the same midnight deadline and 22:30, 10:30 at night to an hour and a half before the strike deadline, they had an agreement put in place. So, this has been something that has been what I would call a strategic move on the part of WestJet to kind of come to a conclusion in these negotiations. But this is an operational, aspect as well. They have to get their airplanes in position so that by Saturday night, at the threat of the strike, the airplanes are in those locations where the airplanes can be secured, where they can be maintained. So you can't have these airplanes stranded in secondary cities or internationally. They all have to be home. The crews have to be home, and that has to happen before the Sunday strike deadline.
Okay, fair pay is a major issue. The union says some duties amount to unpaid work. Can you explain how their system works and what each side is arguing here?
Yeah, this is an old system. It's been around like all pretty much old school pay management. They have had this system in place for at least 10 or 12 contracts already, where the flight attendants get paid when the clock starts when the door of the airplane is closed, and the clock stops when the door of the airplane opens. But all that work that was done, and the union and management did recognize there was some of it. So rather than clock all of that time physically, they basically said, well, we'll give you 1.5 times your salary for the airplane flight time, and that's going to be for your flight, and we're going to compensate, and that should compensate for the amount of time that you spend talking about preparing for a flight, handling passengers and disembarking airplanes and stuff like that. So this is a standard that's been around for a few decades, and unfortunately, the industry has changed. The flight attendants have changed. Flight attendants have said the airlines operating performance is getting worse, more delays, more time spent between flights, waiting for flights. That point five doesn't work anymore. So now they want to get paid for the actual amount of hours that they are waiting before the door closes and after the door opens. So it is a change in practices. It's something that started in the US about 4 years ago, and it's migrating north. We had the same issue last year with Air Canada, and now it's WestJet's turn.
Okay, and WestJet has already started grounding some aircraft, as you know, before any job action has actually begun. What do you make of that? Is that a sign that a strike is more likely to occur?
No, it's a sign of prudent planning for a strike. Those airplanes have to be positioned in locations where maintenance can be done, where the airplanes can be secure, and that's what they're doing. The airplanes are being parked in Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, probably Winnipeg as well, Toronto, Montreal, maybe Ottawa. So to get those airplanes to those locations and cruise home, that scaling back of the schedule has to start today. So in a few hours, you'll start getting WestJet. Hopefully, those calls will offer you an alternative transportation to your destination within 48 hours of your original booking. And if that's not acceptable to you, you have a choice of accepting a full refund in cash to the original form of payment for that ticket. So the initiative is on WestJet's part to get hold of you. And now those are the regulations, and that's what we have to hold WestJet to.
Okay, and is there anything else passengers can do to further protect themselves?
At this point in time, it's really patience. You're really in the hands of WestJet. If you have a ticket that you purchased through a travel agency or through an online party, that's something that you're going to have to do some planning or some communication with that agency and get them to provide WestJet. When they call WestJet, WestJet will call them. They won't call you. So WestJet has to talk to you with this alternative transportation. So make sure the agency has your points of contact for today or whenever your trip is planned. Don't if you don't get them the points of contact, WestJet can't get hold of you. So make sure that that service provider has your cell number, your email address, so that WestJet can offer you that alternative transportation.
Okay, and just finally, this is very similar to last year's dispute between Air Canada and its flight attendants. What, if anything, can we learn from what went on last summer?
It was a mess last year, as we remember, and we're going to see a repeat performance. A little fewer passengers, but there's still 75,000 passengers a day that WestJet will be carrying. And those 75,000 passengers are going to have to get individually talked to by WestJet to offer them alternative transportation. So you'll have people waiting at the airport, waiting for that WestJet call. You'll have people sitting around at home at airports, just waiting for that call, and then you have to scramble. And then you have to basically, make sure that you get to the alternative flight quickly. So it'll be pretty chaotic for the next few hours and for however long this strike lasts. I don't think it's going to last very long. I think the government is going to step in somehow, some way with return to work orders that will get everybody back to work while they negotiate or while they go to arbitration or binding arbitration, which I think is going to be the ultimate solution to this problem.
All right, John, as always, thanks so much for your time and insight today.
My pleasure.
That's John Gradek, aviation expert and faculty lecturer at McGill University.